What up, YouTube? Casey the Quiet Warrior. And before I get into what I'm about to talk about, I just want to put out a disclaimer before I get into what I'm about to talk about. I do not mean this in a disrespectful way. I do not mean this to disregard what happened during this year. I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to belittle anybody. I just want to come on here and make a disclaimer for first and foremost to bring out my condolences and rest in peace to all the people who lost their lives to this tragic event that the world experienced. And I just want to put that out there first and to clear that up, because I'm not trying to make this disrespectful or disregard what happened in any way. But with all that being said, what I want to come on here and talk about is why and how quarantine made me better as a person. And I feel like it made a lot of people better, and it also broke a lot of people. The quarantine either made you or broke you. And I just want to come on here and talk about a couple of tips and stuff that I experienced from being in quarantine and learning to adapt through that tough time. Like I said, I'm not trying to belittle anybody or disregard all the tragic things that happened during this year. I just want to come on here and talk about some of the benefits that I specifically gained from being in the quarantine. So I have 5 tips, and without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1, it forced me to grow and become better mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I have 5 tips, like I said, and most of these tips are related to each other. But with the first one, this one is pretty obvious and similar to the other 4. But the reason I say this is because we had all the time in the world, especially if you weren't in school like I was. Obviously it was school, but it was virtual. We weren't in person. So we really had all the time in the world to do whatever we wanted to do, and utilize that in a good or bad way, because like I said, either the quarantine made you or broke you. And especially with me, referring back to school, especially with my school, because they didn't have a well thought out school system plan for the quarantine, because nobody expected it. So it really gave me enough time, from my point of view, from being in school, and the way the system was set up just gave me even more time. But with all that being said, the main point that I'm trying to get across in this tip is that we have all the time in the world to better ourselves and do things that you wanted to do and complete and set out to achieve. And like I said, either you did that, or you were just not taking advantage of that time. And the reason I say this is because there was nothing else to do. We couldn't do anything except just sit at home and really just take in everything that was going on in the world at that time. So I was already coming off having some issues from the previous year in 2019. And once that happened, and we had all that time just on our hands, it just forced me to grow, because we couldn't do anything. We had to sit down. We had to think about what was going on. We had to sink in and let in and realize what was going on. And with that, I took what problems that I was having, and I started to work on myself and figure out what I needed to do to better myself. And that was really, the beginning of me growing mentally, physically, and spiritually. Because like I said, we had all that time on our hands. And that's tip number one. Tip number two is I learned more about myself. And I feel like everybody did, like I said in the first tip, because we had, all this time on our hand, and we couldn't go nowhere. So you had to sit down and force yourself to come to acceptance to what was going on. And it either, like I said, it either made people or it broke people. But the reason I said I found myself is because I learned, new things about myself that I didn't know from, always just, being used to living a regular life. And when that happened, it was a shock to all of us. And so, like I said, when we had all that time on our hand, it forced me to grow because I was learning from the things that I needed to work on in order to grow as a person. And I learned things about myself that I didn't know before because I was put in a situation that I wasn't used to, and I was uncomfortable to. And once I started to work on myself and and do the things that I needed to do to become, better, I figured out things about myself. I discovered new things from working on myself and 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 self-improving, because like I said, we had all that time on our hands, and we really couldn't do anything. So with me seeking out to better myself and start to go down the road on my self-improvement journey, I learned new things about myself because I was using my time wisely to figure out what I needed to do to set out to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I did that. And tip number three, I became more focused and disciplined. And like I said, if I'm bringing up the same things, it's because most of them relate. Because the two things that really changed it for us was we had more times on our hand and we couldn't do anything. And so with me going down on my self-improvement journey, and especially learning new things overall, from the internet, and learning new things from within myself that I didn't know from improving my life and improving myself mentally, physically, and spiritually. That's how I learned new things. When I did that, and I started to see improvements in my overall health and my being and my mental health, that stuck with me because it made me feel better as a person every day. It made me feel like I had more of a purpose in my life. So once I got that feeling, I just stuck with it. And whatever I needed to do to become better, I was doing it consistently every day. And I just started to become more disciplined within myself, and, overall, focusing up more because, we had all that time and we couldn't do anything. And like I said, with me going down on my self-improvement journey, when I was seeing results from these new things that I was learning and trying out, and I was seeing progress, being built up and making me move forward in life, it made me more focused and disciplined to do that every day, because I knew that this is what I wanted to do to become better. This what gives me the motivation to wake up in the morning and to keep repeating this cycle every day, because from the things that I was learning, it was helping me become better. And once I figured that out, it automatically sharpened my mind. And this especially helped out with NoFap, because NoFap already does this, and I said that in a previous video. But overall, it just made me do that, because I couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't go anywhere. So you just had to sit down and learn how to be still. That's the overall message that I'm trying to get out. We had to sit down, we had to be still, and we had to figure out things within ourselves and fight inner demons that we had. But not trying to get too sidetracked, but that's just, the main thing I'm trying to get at and explain in here. And fourth tip, it made me appreciate the little things more in life. And the reason I say this is because, with us not being able to do anything as far as going out the house, it made me appreciate things in life a lot more, because we didn't have the things that we used to have before the pandemic. So little things like just being able to even, just step outside my house and just be in nature, and just meditate in nature, and be outside and look at, the sky, and hear the animals and the birds chirping. Just things like that, just the little things. Even being able to wake up in the morning every day, just those type of things just, made me appreciate life more, appreciate, the little things that we had. Because, beforehand with us, being able to do anything we want, as far as, like I said, getting out the house or having things right there at our side, and being able to have quick access to, when we didn't really have that, besides the internet. But when we didn't have that, it made me appreciate life and being grateful more, because we didn't have everything at a quick access that we used to have. And so just being able to experience the subtle things, the little things in life, it just made me more appreciative and grateful for the things that I have, and the life that I grew into to love, and just being able to grow. And the fifth and final tip is, I realized who was fake and who was real. And I feel like this was the key factor for everybody in quarantine, because, a lot of people, they disappeared, they went ghosts, they didn't stick around with the people that they did beforehand, before the whole quarantine and the pandemic happened. And like I said, I feel like this happened with a lot of people, because, like I said, previously, it was something different, something that we weren't used to. And I feel like it really exposed people's true colors, because it showed who would still be able to reach out and contact you, and check up on you and see how you are, even with the circumstances of what was going on, during that year. And it exposed people who really cared, and who really, were concerned about your well-being as a person, and it showed the real people who were actually, concerned about that, and made time to reach out to you, even though the circumstances that we were going through, and how life was. And like I said, this was just overall really what happened to most people, because either the quarantine made you or broke you. And even with the circumstances that were going on, most people either used it wisely, or they was lollygagging, and they wasn't getting on their grind. They wasn't, trying to better themselves during this time. And I'm not trying to blame anybody for that, because you're in control of your own life, and you decide to live your life how you want to live your life. But at the end of the day, just with that whole thing being said, it really showed you who was there for you, and who can make time for you, even in these circumstances. And with that being said, that's really all I want to come on here and talk about. Those were the 5 tips that I had from being in quarantine, and just overall learning and growing. And I know these tips may sound, very similar or repetitive, and that type of way, but at the end of the day, what I was really trying to get at is that it forced me to better myself, because everybody, including myself, was in a situation that we weren't used to. And some people, either used that wisely or didn't. But at the end of the day, everybody had to adapt to that, and accept it, and figure out how to function and operate during that time. And I just wanted to come on here and share the things that I learned from being in that time period, and that experience. And like I said, I'm sorry if those tips sound repetitive, but at the end of the day, they all have something to do with each other, because it was all a growth factor for me. It was all a point of bettering my life, and overall setting out to achieve what I wanted to achieve, especially from the circumstances that happened to me the previous year before that. But let me know if I missed out anything in the comment section below. And let me know what you learned and what you gained from the quarantine. And just make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. And like I said, I apologize if those tips sounded repetitive, and and kind of the same. But with the tips I usually make, they all kind of have something in common with each other. And at the end of the day, like I said, it all just came down to one common factor, and that was me being able to grow mentally, physically, and spiritually.